So I did it. I got good. I beat Dark Souls 1. And it was a very bittersweet experience coming to the end of the game. Dark Souls as a package is really kind of like the epitome of what modern gaming could be if it was driven by artists and not fucking boardrooms. Going through Dark Souls, getting stuck, finding out where to go, discovering secrets, it's really kind of mind-blowing how there's just so much to the game that is optional. There's so much to the game that is not only optional but hidden away, purposely obscured. I played for almost 60 hours, maybe less than that considering I left my Switch on a lot, but there are tons of places that I haven't discovered and I didn't go to and I never found. And the fact that you can sink that much time into a game and still have barely scratched the surface is something that is so foreign to the current AAA marketplace. They could have just cut all of that and now sold it as microtransactions and DLC and shit. That's just kind of like how games work nowadays. But the fact that probably 40 to 50% of the content in Dark Souls is entirely skippable and entirely missable. I didn't go to the Ash Lake. I totally missed that. There's just so much shit that I'm just watching videos trying to further understand Dark Souls in terms of its story and its lore, because those are all really interesting things, the breadcrumbs it leaves for you to find, and I want to explore more of it and figure it out. The game just has this really interesting, beautifully crafted world that packs away secrets around every corner that are easy to miss, but can further satisfy the interested player. I want to go back to Lordran and keep exploring and keep finding new things and trying to see all the areas that I didn't do and actually fucking save Solier this time because I'm really pissed that I wasn't able to fucking pull it off. But I'm hesitant to do so because even playing through and finishing the game, the core gameplay loop, the combat, the slowness of it still doesn't appeal to me. It still is a grind. It is still unfun to me. So I'm left with this really interesting world and all of this stuff that I didn't find the first time that I'd like to go back and experience just because of the spectacle and the scope and the magnificence of this beautifully, painstakingly created world. But unfortunately, I also have to reconcile with the fact that the very way that you interact with the world is something I find painfully unfun. And while it's rewarding and fair, it just doesn't do anything for me on a moment-to-moment basis. And so I'm left with this unfortunate choice of, do I go back and continue to explore this world that's really interesting and contains lots of things I haven't experienced yet? I didn't even get to fight Artoris. I missed fucking Artoris. Everybody sucks off Artoris. I didn't even fucking find him because I'm an idiot. I'm interested in finding Artoris because of the lore things and how he's tied with the Abyss and Sif and all these interesting things that the game kind of leaves for you to discover. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to go fight another boss with combat that I don't like. So it's just it's such a drag, which is why I kind of wish that it was more like Bloodborne at the very least, because at least Bloodborne had a gameplay loop that I enjoyed a lot more. And there's just so much of this interesting content, this interesting world locked away that I didn't do, and other choices that I could have made. And I want to experience them because I'm interested in the world of Lordran, in the lore of Dark Souls. All of that is really compelling in the vagueness of how everything's told, but the care and the craftsmanship that went into producing it. But it's all experienced through a core loop of gameplay that doesn't do much for me. So while I'm tempted to jump back in and get in on New Game Plus or experience some of the other things, I didn't use a single spell or miracle the entire playthrough because my character wasn't geared for it, despite the fact that, I rescued a bunch of pyromancers and sorcerers that wanted to teach me more magic. So there's a whole system to the game that I haven't even touched yet. And would that improve my experience? Would being a sorcerer instead of a fucking melee guy improve my experience when playing the game? I don't know. But there's also the interest of going through New Game Plus and taking the character that I've already built and continuing to refine it and see how much further I can push the build and maybe unlock some of the new gear. I wasn't able to get high enough strength or dexterity to use the Dragon Tooth, which I found that I was really interested in getting to it. And I also want to get back to the giant in Anor Londo so I can level up my great sword to the great sword you get for giving him Gwyn's soul, which I still have, obviously. So there's a ton of like things I want to keep exploring just because like there's so much care put into everything. But again, like the core gameplay is like, do I really want to go through Sense Fortress again? You know, do I really want to keep fighting and playing this like not great combat in my book? And maybe that's not fair. It's not that the combat isn't great, it's just it doesn't work for me. I think one of the best things about Dark Souls is that while it's a fucking dick, like the game is designed to be a fucking dick, it's never unfair. It's just kind of a cunt about it, if that really makes any sense. I can respect the game at the same time being really pissed off at it. I don't know. I mean, on Twitter, I gave it a 6 out of 10, and I think if the combat was just a little bit more Bloodborne, it probably would be like a 9, because everything surrounding it is really fucking interesting. But yeah, I just can't get over the fact that there's just nothing in the moment-to-moment gameplay that really did a lot for me, and it dragged down the entire experience because I wanted to go out and explore and find things, but I just knew I'd just be miserable doing it. And it's really kind of frustrating. But I'm glad that I finished it. I'm glad that I was able to experience it, and I'll probably go back to it at some point and continue trying to find new things and do new things that I wasn't able to do last time for the choices that I made and the things that I missed. I have a feeling that maybe a second playthrough, I don't know if it would be technically better, but it would just be so much different. You know, the first time going through Dark Souls, I made a conscious choice to only use guides when I absolutely had to and I couldn't figure out what to do next. So that meant, and I knew nothing about Dark Souls before other than the fact that it was hard. So I didn't know anything about the game. So going through things, I was able to experience a lot of it unspoiled. And that experience was really great for the high moments and like learning new things and like seeing the great locations and how the world was put together, but it was also very terrifying, purposely so. I probably didn't explore nearly as much as I could have because of the risk reward thing. I didn't want to lose my souls, I didn't want to lose my progress, I didn't know it was around at every corner. But a second playthrough would be a totally different experience because now that I know everything and like, you know, to beat the game, you can be a bit more bold in the confidence that you understand what's coming next. So it almost seems like it warrants a second playthrough on New Game Plus just to kind of like that tonal switch and being able to go in a bit more confident and understanding what the game and the world has to offer, but then also being able to have small pockets of that wonder again as I go into places I haven't before. I just wish swinging a sword was more fun doing that. So yeah, I just wanted to update everybody because I know the last vlog I did on Dark Souls was very contentious, and I knew that going in. But even though the game, in terms of its moment-to-moment gameplay, isn't all that fun for me, I need to reiterate that Dark Souls is a great game. The fact that it offers so much, and offers so much optionally, and doesn't have the gall to try and charge for it or anything. I know it's like the game, you know, for Switch came out this year, but it's based on a game that's almost 10 years old. So it makes sense that none of these horrible business practices were really how everything worked back when it was released. But it's just so refreshing to have an experience that is like so complete and then some, and leaves so much more to be discovered. You know, I can easily see myself sinking another 100 hours exploring the world and finding new things and playing with different builds. I could probably see myself doing way more if I actually enjoyed the gameplay on top of it. If they had this kind of flexibility and this kind of world built on like Bloodborne's combat, or maybe even Dark Souls 3, because I started Dark Souls 3 and it feels much more Bloodborne-y in terms of like the catharsis of the combat and things like that, I don't know if I'd play other games for a while. There's just so much meat on this game's bones to really sift through and dig into. It really bothers me that I have to do it in spite of a gameplay loop that feels subpar to me. That's really all I want to say. I beat Dark Souls, I got good, and while I still can't say it's one of my favorite games, I absolutely appreciate it for what it is, and I wish that more games would do what Dark Souls does so well. But I don't think that's really possible, just because what Dark Souls does so well requires dedication and artistry and just finesse on levels that I don't think a lot of people have. So there you go. Patreon.com/polystation2 if you want to show me some love. I'll keep trying to do more videos and vlogs like this and keep IM Games alive until the inevitable revival at some point. Take it easy, guys.